Welcome to Sink or Swim, presented by Squid Group, your digital marketing partner. The Art of Buying and Selling Businesses with Dave Lathan. We review the tax benefits of selling businesses and the importance of not flipping businesses, ensuring you don't fail the intentions test. Now let's chat about whether to buy a business or a property. Hope you enjoy it. Ha! Dave, welcome on.
Hey Lawrence.
How you going?
Very good, thank you.
Good. So, before we start talking flipping businesses, let's talk about these guitars in this room.
Yeah, most definitely. So this one over here is signed by Jack White. My wife got it for me for my 40th birthday. So that's a pretty special guitar. Over here we've got a signed Nirvana Bleach album. The oddity being that it's signed by Dave Grohl, who didn't actually drum on the Bleach album. He's actually started with Nirvana for the Nevermind album, although he did actually tour the Bleach album, so a bit of a strange one. And over here we've got the Jag Stang, which is my favourite brainstorming technique. So Fender tasked Kurt Cobain to design a custom guitar for them. They had a project plan of a year for him to go through design and prototype stage, and Kurt was like, nah, I'm going to do this right now. He got his Polaroid camera, he took 2 Polaroid pictures of his 2 favourite guitars, stuck them together, drew a Fender Stratocaster headstock on it, made 6 notes and faxed it back to Fender. And Fender said, right, we need to get a design team with you. And he was like, nah, no design team, get it made. You've got the best designers, the best luthiers. So they made it, and Kurt played the Jag Stang once before it was all over. And
then what's the top CDs up there? That's
it's Biffy Clyro, who's one of my favourite, definitely my favourite Scottish band. And then the pick that's up there in the frame, I caught at the power station after Simon threw out a whole load of picks at the end of the concert.
How good's the power station, as a venue?
Power station is my favourite.
Yeah.
Me and my wife have this specific spot that we always stand on. I stand down.
Upstairs or downstairs?
Downstairs,
yeah.
Always. I stand down on the floor, and then there's a step up. My wife, who's quite a bit shorter than me, stands on the step. So she's about the same height as me.
At least that way you can both say what you both saw, it's an equal experience at that point.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, the last time we were at the power station, we were in our spot, and this whole load of security guards got real close to us, and we were like, well, what the hell's happening here? And then we look over, and there was Lord and her boyfriend with the security guards all around them.
No way. What gig was that for?
Connor Oberst. So he's the lead singer, songwriter for Bright Eyes, but he was actually at the power station for a solo gig.
No way.
And Lord's actually said that he's one of their favourite songwriters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. And so, we're obviously here to talk about some exciting accounting stuff.
For sure. Business
chat. Let's start off with flipping businesses.
Ooh, flipping. That's a bit of a bad word. If you use the word flipping, then you could potentially fail the intention test. The intention test with the Inland Revenue is that if you buy something with the intention of flipping it and selling it for profit, then it could result in taxable income. So the word flipping is definitely one of the words that you want to avoid. In New Zealand at the moment, we don't have a capital gains tax. We have a quasi-capital gains tax for residential property called the Bright Line test. The Bright Line test is being reduced to 2 years from the 1st of July this year, but it is a capital gains tax. Many of the OECD countries have capital gains taxes already. So if you stare into the future of New Zealand, a capital gains tax is probably there. Whether it's in the next 5 years or decade or whatever, it's definitely, I would see it on the horizon coming. But at the moment, we don't have a capital gains tax, which capital growth being not taxed can be a real windfall, a real way to accelerate your growth accumulation phase.
And so that goes across both property and business, correct?
That's right, yeah. So residential obviously got the 2-year bright line test. Commercial premises completely outside bright line. So that the capital gains that you make on commercial premises tax free at the moment, and the same with the big one is businesses. Any capital gain that you make on a business is currently tax free.
And how does that work then for a commercial space if you turn it into a let's say it is still a commercial space, like commercial area, but it then is built into somewhere where people are residing or things like that? Is that then residential?
Okay, so you've got a multi-use premises.
Yeah.
And then you're asking whether that would fit within the bright line rules.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question, actually. I haven't come across any of my clients moving a commercial premises into a residential, actually, and selling it, and whether that fits the bright line rules or not. If you were to have a residential property and use a portion of it for commercial use, then the bright line rules would definitely apply. But there's always the own home exemption. So if they're living there in a residential property, then that own home exemption would apply to the bright line rules.
And so then for businesses, growing a business and then selling it, or buying a business and then selling it,
yes,
what's the benefit of that right now compared to, say, investing in property?
Okay. So residential property, if you look back to World War II, has generally been doubling in value every 10 years. We've got loan to income to loan ratios, which are being implemented by the Reserve Bank. And in countries that have had that income to loan ratios adopted, a plateauing of house prices has been seen. I was reading an economist's report earlier on in the week, and he was anticipating that house prices in New Zealand could stay static or even decline a little bit all the way to 2029. So maybe the preference of everybody or the preference of Kiwis to invest in residential property, the tides may be changing, and commercial premises, which are outside bright line rules and still have some great capital growth potentials, or businesses, may become the preferred investment for Kiwis going forward.
Yeah. And how does that work in terms of scaling a business and then selling it and the profit you make on that? So, like, where do you see, in terms of your clients, making the most gain from that? And how do you look at buying a business?
Yeah, for sure. So the gold standard for valuing businesses is usually an EBITDA multiplier. So EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Amortization is not really used much here in New Zealand. It's like depreciation, but for intangible property. So effectively what EBITDA does is it distills a business down to its bare bones. So you might own a bit, or you might run your business fully leveraged with lots of debt, paying lots of interest. You may own all of the assets, so lots of depreciation. I may run the business completely different to you. It may have no debt, so no interest, and I lease all of my assets. So there's little depreciation that hits the P&L. What the EBITDA number does is actually distills both of our business so they can be comparable. Businesses, they say if you had like a one-man band window cleaner that ambles down a road and knocks on doors and washes some windows, he'd probably have an EBITDA multiplier for his business of 1. Then you've got the other side of the spectrum, the big corporates like foodstuffs or Air New Zealand that would have 10 or more multipliers of their EBITDA. I'd say probably of my clients here in Tauranga, probably 90% of them are in between that 3 to 5 times EBITDA multiplication.
Yeah. And so how does that work then in terms of an actual number? So is that saying that if you make $1 million, like when you're selling your business, you look at that multiplier, right? And that's sort of like what it gets valued at. Is that right?
Yeah, that's for sure. When you're selling a business, you usually engage a business broker, and the business broker will prepare a appraisal of the value of the business. And 9 times out of 10, the appraisal will have a EBITDA multiplier. So if we say that the business has an EBITDA of $250,000, it doesn't really have great systems involved. The business is heavily reliant on the owner working in the business. It's probably got an EBITDA multiplier of 3, which $250,000 times 3 would give an enterprise value for that business of $750,000. If you were to go into that business and improve the systems, put a great marketing plan in place, engage Squid Group, put some great procedures in place, put some great governance in place, divorce the ownership from the running of the business. So making the business, instead of, I always use the analogy, if a business was a wheel, most businesses have the axle, which is the business owner, and the business spins around them. You remove the business owner and the wheel goes all over the place. If you had a divorce the ownership from the running of the business by having a great general manager in there to run the business, so the ownership is divorced from, then it would increase the value of your business. So by doing those kind of things, you could increase the EBITDA multiplier to say 4 times. So you've made $250,000 in capital growth of the business. But if you put in all of these procedures and processes in place, a great marketing plan, you're probably also increasing the EBITDA of the business. So if you increase the EBITDA of the business to $375,000, increase the value of the business to a 4 times EBITDA multiplier, then your business is now worth $1.5 million and you've doubled your money.
Yeah. And so what industries, is there generally an industry variation between where EBITDAs are higher versus lower, or does it generally across the board? Hard to say.
Definitely. There's some great statistics out there that give industry standards on what the industry generally has for EBITDA, and the more or the more profit, the more a business is valued on good quality, future maintainable earnings. So if you had a business that didn't really have great future maintainable earnings, then the ratio is going to be lower. If you've got a business where the quality of those future maintainable earnings is longer, and like if you had a business with long-term contracts in place, 10-year contracts to provide services, then that surety would then improve the quality of those good future maintainable earnings and definitely increase the multiple of EBITDA that you would use.
And so how does having a subscription model within a business impact EBITDA? Because that creates consistent monthly, usually, income that comes through. And what benefit is that to business? Because subscription businesses are now the model which most
for sure. I've recently switched my business into more of a subscription model. So effectively what I do is I work out what services I'm going to deliver each financial year. So from the 1st of April to the 31st of March, work out what that cost of delivering those services will be, divide that by 12, and then it's a 1/12 payment throughout the year each month. And my clients are loving it because it eases their cash flow. They have to find a few $100s rather than a few $1,000s. So it eases their cash flow, it eases my cash flow, because I know that I'm going to be getting a 12th of my annual income in each month. I can see that we're going to end up with a lot more subscription models out there. There's already the move to like the car subscription almost. If you go to like the Turners, having a subscription model for cars at the moment, and I'm sure that there's going to be pretty much most things, instead of the big capital outlay, we're going to start using on a subscription model.
Yeah.
Like in the logistics industry, like that subscription model for tyres, where you pay for a tyre subscription using technology. The tread on the tyres is monitored, and ping, you're due for a new set of tyres, already booked in, and pretty smart systems.
It's actually insane when you look at how far cars have come. Like I was driving the other day, and I mean, it's not that crazy, this sort of technology, but instantly it pops up saying that my back right tyre PSI had dropped to 31, and it was like, you need to go and da-da-da. It's like, I don't really understand how the tyres can be that accurate, because suddenly I saw it starting to bounce, and then not that long ago I was off-roading and we got a puncture. It was a real pain in the ass because we were towing the jet ski on the back, and then we were in this off-roading area, and then next minute we get this massive puncture, and then it was having to do a tyre change in the middle of nowhere with no reception. But regardless of that, it was really interesting watching the machine or the vehicle tell you that you're slowly seeing it going 34, 33, 32, 31, 22, and now you're not moving. But yeah, it's interesting to see where technology will take all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, most definitely.
And so going back to business, where do you see the most opportunity within most clients to optimize their businesses generally? Is it through systems? Is it like, how do you support clients as an accountant?
Yeah, sure. One thing that I'm really big on is what's your plan for the future? Because if the client just wants to continue with the income level that they're currently on, they don't want the hassle of employing any more staff, they just want to coast, and that's fine. It's the easy life they're after. But if you've got an aspirational client that really wants to accelerate their business, it's working out, where do you want to be in 10 years' time? Right, okay, let's distill that back to 5 years. To meet that target in 10 years, where do you need to be in 5 years? And then distilling that back even further to, okay, so to be there after 5 years, where do you need to be after 1 year? And then distilling it back into monthly.
Yeah.
Like a client says, I want to get to $600,000 worth of turnover by the end of the year. Okay, so what do you need to do that? Well, you need to make 50 grand every month. You hit the 50 grand every month for the next 12 months, and by the end of the year, you're going to hit your 600,000 target.
Yeah.
You could even distill that back that into a weekly basis. So 12.5 grand every week. By the end of the fourth week, you know you're going to have hit your 50 grand target. You do that, and then you do that for the next 12 months, you're going to hit your annual target. Then it's right, let's reassess, where do we need to be to get to the 5-year target from the beginning of next year? Well, we need to get up to 700,000, and it's just making sure that they've got their eye on the prize and knowing how they're going to get there. So these small incremental changes along the way means that they're cruising towards the target.
Yeah.
It's kind of distilling what's really important in the business and how do you achieve that. So if it's the revenue growth, how do you need to do that? Well, we need to put better marketing in place.
Yeah. It's funny how often I see it with businesses where they look quite often at the big end goal.
Yeah.
and that end goal stops them from even starting. And so often it's like, okay, let's just take a step back here and just start with the smaller task, break it down, and then from there you can then move forward with getting to that end goal. But if you always look at saying, okay, I want to be turning over $1 million a year and I need to hire 5 staff, well, it's too overwhelming. Whereas if you say, I need to get to $1 million, and to do that I need to earn this much income, so this month my goal is to get 1 key new staff member, and then over the next 3 months I'm going to hire 1 person each month or whatever else it is.
For sure.
And then from a marketing perspective, okay, I need to advertise on Facebook, TikTok, Google, do some SEO, do some content. But don't just say, so often I'll be like, okay, let's do it as an incremental approach. Let's start off with doing some content and starting off with, say, social. Then let's implement a Google campaign. Then once you've got all that set up, look at running TikTok, because TikTok's much more work intensive. You need ongoing content and it's a lot harder on a business. But if you start and just be like, I'm going to hire 2 new staff members and then suddenly I'm going to implement this whole marketing strategy, it usually never happens.
For sure. It's the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? If you try and eat an elephant, it's impossible. Eat it piece by piece and it becomes easy.
Yeah. I still don't think I could eat an elephant though.
Be pretty chewy.
Yeah. And cool. So I got one more question just around capital gains and all of those sort of things.
Yeah.
So for a business owner, or actually not even a business owner, for someone who owns their own personal property, so they've bought one house, how do they then go about buying a second property, and how does that impact them if they buy it through a trust versus buying it outright through themselves again? Does that change anything?
Yeah, for sure. So if you see down in my corner here, I've got the Captain America shield. So when you're in business, you always need to know your why. So my why is protecting my client's interests. So that can be protecting them in the event of an insolvency from the Inland Revenue, making sure that all of their tax returns are compliant and tax is paid on time and all of that good stuff, really protecting clients' interests. And family trusts are a fantastic way to protect your assets, because once your assets are in the family trust and they've been in there for a number of years, then they're completely protected. That if Lawrence, as business owner, goes into an insolvency or has a WorkSafe claim against him, his assets are protected, and you don't have to go home and say, sorry family, I gotta sell the house. So protecting assets in a family trust is a definite still a very viable way of protecting your personal assets, as long as they're administered correctly. So having a rental property in a family trust would be for asset protection purposes predominantly. The tax rate of trusts has just changed on the 1st of April to 39%, which is the most expensive income tax rate in the land. So trusts are now 39%, and high income earners with income over $180,000, their marginal tax rate is 39% as well. If the rental property is making money, it doesn't necessarily, or making a profit, doesn't necessarily mean that the tax rate will be that 39% tax rate, because income from a trust can be distributed to its beneficiaries. And if the beneficiaries have lower marginal tax rates because they're not earning the $180,000, then those lower tax rates can still be utilised.
So in that regards then, for people who have a family and they've potentially got children and things like that, how would that work if, say, the trust is earning $300,000 over?
For your children up to their 16th birthday, a trust can distribute $1,000 to them. After their 16th birthday, a trust can distribute more than the $1,000 to them. If your partner's on a stay-at-home mum, for instance, that has all of her lower marginal tax rates available, then the trust can make distributions, beneficiary distributions to the lower earners to utilise those lower marginal tax rates.
So that would mean that potentially they would be able to earn up to 180,000 and get that normal the tax rates that go up from there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, just need to be aware of any tax avoidance. So it would be before doing that would be run it past your accountant first.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I think, considering we can't say flipping businesses,
just make sure that the intention test is made is met. So when you're buying a capital asset, you need to be really clear on what the intention is when you were buying that, and if it's for a long-term hold to make these great capital gains, then you'll be a big tick on the intention test.
Cool. Thanks, Mel.
No worries.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Cool.
Thanks for tuning in to another Squid Group podcast. If you're looking for a marketing partner to grow your brand, business, or event, contact us here at Squid Group. See you next time.